On the 6th of February 1840, the Māori nation owned 66 million acres of real estate. Now they possess a mere 3.5 million acres. The confiscation of private land, or raupatu, by the colonial government was deliberate and well orchestrated. The colonial government used a variety of legislative theft to confiscate land from Māori. The New Zealand Settlements Act 1863, the Rebellion of Suppression Act, and the Public Works Act. Now, the New Zealand Settlements Act had three objectives: to transfer private Māori real estate to British immigrants; secondly, to increase immigration so that the native Māori population became a minority in their own land. The third objective was racist, to confiscate all Māori land, including tribes that were not in rebellion or those that supported the government. On the 5th of November 1863, the Member of Parliament James Fitzgerald argued against the New Zealand Settlements Act.
I object, first upon the ground that it is contrary to the Treaty of Waitangi, which has distinctly guaranteed and pledged the faith of the Crown that the lands of the natives shall not be taken from them, except by the ordinary process of the law.
The colonial government was breaching the Treaty of Waitangi. Now, Article 2 of the treaty had promised the chiefs and tribes undisturbed estates, forests, and fisheries.
I object, because I conceive the provision to be in direct opposition of that section of the Constitution Act which debars us from making any law which is repugnant to the law of England.
The Constitutions Act stipulated the state may not procure private real estate.
This, sir, is proposed to be done. This great, what I call, this enormous crime is proposed to be perpetrated against a race to whom have refused the right of representation in this House, who at this moment are totally and absolutely in ignorance that we are about to make this great invasion upon their privileges. Has been advocated by one party in this country, has been a policy dictated solely by the desire to acquire lands for the settlers.
The New Zealand Parliament was purely a race-based Anglo-Saxon institution. New Zealand-born Māori citizens were not entitled to vote or stand for Parliament, even though in 1863 they were the majority of the population, and Article 3 of the Treaty of Waitangi had promised the natives of New Zealand would become first-class citizens, having all the rights and privileges of British subjects. Now, two of the proponents of land confiscation was Frederick Whitaker and Thomas Russell, because they had the most to gain, as they were the owners of the newly formed Bank of New Zealand that was funding the invasion.
That in the name of civilization and progress, settlers must have easier access to Maori lands. That war against Maori rebels must be ruthlessly prosecuted, and after unconditional surrender there must be large confiscations of land.
Deception and disinformation was used to justify the land acquisition that the Kingitanga movement based in Ngaruawahia had developed plans to invade Auckland, that tribes who are resisting British colonists encroaching on their land were in rebellion, when in reality they were trying to protect their property rights and refused to sell real estate. Another mechanism used to alienate native land was the Public Works Act. Only citizens of the British race were entitled to stand for elections on borough councils. This was race-based privilege, and it was entrenched into local government, and still is today. The hate group Hobson's Pledge spent $1 million to stop Māori participation in 4 district councils. Often low-ranking borough councillors would invoke the Public Works Act on native land and confiscate land en masse for pools, parks and other public recreational sites, or in some instances the borough councillors would use the Public Works Act to enrich themselves. Borough councils would also charge exorbitant rates on native land and then confiscate that same land for unpaid rates. The Lands and Surveys Department would designate large tracts of land as wasteland and then sell it cheaply to colonists for a fee simple. Every part of the colonial government colluded to steal native land from the native land courts through to borough councils. Under such a withering attack, the legitimate landowners didn't stand a chance. Now, Māori have been forced to pay for their own settlements twice over, first by having their land stolen, second by having been taxpayers since 1840 and their own tax dollars being recycled as treaty settlements. Now, critics complain this history is all in the past and we need to build a bridge and get over it. I reject this notion that the effects of the New Zealand Settlements Act can still be seen around us today. The Māori economy was smashed, and this has caused generational poverty. Treaty settlements will never be full and final because treaties are not settled, they are honoured. The thief, the Crown, gets to determine the redress. The Crown refuses to offer back private real estate over an incident in 1987 where Alan Titford burnt down his own house and blamed it on what he called Māori terrorists. The real terrorist, Titford, is serving a 24-year prison sentence in Rimutaka prison for arson and rape. Now, many myths have been invented by the inheritors of confiscated land that the pitiful amount offered in redress is a gravy train when, in reality, all treaty settlements combined equal the same value spent on the Defence Force in a single year. The Ministry of Education avoids at all costs any mention of land confiscation in history in an effort to protect people's feelings. Forgetting the past is the wrong approach. We need to acknowledge this corruption in history to heal the past so that we can build a better future.